Hello and welcome to another tutorial from CodingDemos. In this video, you guys are going to learn how you can take a photo using your physical device or the emulator. So by the end of this tutorial, you will have an app that looks something like this. Okay, so I'm going to tap on the app here, and what we have in the app is basically two views. We have an image view, which is located on top here, and on the bottom we have a simple button. Now when you tap on the button here, take photo, this will open up the camera of the device. Now I'm going to take a photo. I'm going to tap on this icon, camera icon, tap on it again. The photo is taken, tap on the check mark icon here, and the photo is set inside the image view. Okay, so let's open up Android Studio and let me show you how I did that. Okay, so here in Android Studio we have two files. We have the MainActivity.java and we have the activity_main.xml file. Let me open up the XML file and let me show you what we have here. Here we have two views. We have an image view and we have a button. Now the image view, basically when you drag an image view inside your project here, by default Android Studio will gives you a sample, gives you an avatar that will be used as a sample image for the image view, and it's actually set using this line here. So tools, source, compact, and this basically refers to the photo that is saved inside the tools sample. And when you drag the image view, then you will have this by default. Alright, so and then we have the ID here. I've set that as the IV, which is image view profile, and for the width and height I've set that as 250 by 250. Now the reason why I did that, because if I set this as a wrap content for both of these, then the image would look smaller, and if I set that as a match parent, it's going to look huge, and this button is basically positioned beneath that. So if I set this as match parent for both attributes, then you won't be able to see the button on your screen. So I've set up a fixed size of 250 by 250 for the width and height, and this is basically what we see, or like I showed you in the emulator. The final result would look something like this. Now beneath that we have a simple button with an ID that's called button photo, and has a margin of 20 dp from the top, just to give a space between both views, and has a label that's called take photo, and it's positioned at the bottom of the image view, which is this. So it's pretty simple stuff. Now let's open up the MainActivity.java. Let me walk you through what we have here. It's simple things. I'm just declaring the views that we've just added inside the layout file, and I'm referencing them based on their IDs. And finally here, when we need to react to the user action, and that's where we call the take photo .set OnClickListener, and inside the onClick method is basically where we're going to initiate the camera operation. So what we're going to use here is basically Android intent. Android basically has so many different types of intent that actually help us to do certain things with our app, and one of them that I'm going to share with you today is the taking a photo using the camera app. And let me be clear with you guys that I'm not going to use any kind of permissions. So I'm not going to ask for any camera permission to be able to use the app. Instead, I'm just going to use the intent, and the intent will basically handle this type of operation for me. Okay, so inside the OnClickListener here, inside the OnClick, I'm going to add, oops, I just deleted that. Just undo this. Okay, I'm going to call intent. I'm going to call this intent equals to new intent. And inside this intent here, we need to specify an action that is related to a photo. And to do that, we'll do mediastore dot. So you can see we have different, like so many types of actions that we have. And because we need to capture an image, then we choose the action underscore image capture. That's the first option. And that was semicolon. So we've set the input, we've set the intent here. The next thing that we need to do is we need to uh, check for the check if the device or the emulator has an action that has an app, sorry, that support this type of action. We do this whenever we work with any type of intent because we need to prevent our app and we need to make sure that our app doesn't crash. We need to prevent that from crashing. That's why we check first before we proceed with taking the intent action. To do that, we'll do F and we'll do intent.resolveActivity, and here we're just going to pass the getPackageManager. It's not equal to null, and if there's an app that supports it, if there's an app that support this action, please start the activity for result. And here I'm not going to use the start activity like I did with the rest of the intent videos that I did a while back. Here I'm going to use something a bit different that's called start activity for result. Start activity for result. What we pass here is two things. We pass the intent, and that's what we declared earlier, and then the request code. Okay, we pass intent and the request code. Let me explain to you guys what is the request code. The request code is basically a way or a code that you can initialize that. The code can be any number, but should not be 0. So it could be any number but 0. Now, this is used basically when you actually work with start activity for result, because you need to pass a code, and that code, when you call that later, that's basically how you can differentiate which kind of action that you want to perform. So for example, let's say you're building a social media app, and that app basically takes a photo and a video, and to differentiate between the two, you need to pass different kind of codes. You need to pass, let's say, 1 for taking a photo and 2 for taking a video, because when you later on, when you want to get the value from the camera, the value that could be a photo or a video, you need to differentiate which value that you want to get. So you need to get that based on the code that I've just did here. Now, if you're working mostly with a single code, then you can initialize it right here as 1 or 2 or any number. But if, let's say, you work with multiple kind of codes, generally you would do something like this, and that is public static final string. Oops, not that, public static final. It's actually short for public static final string. Why it's not showing up? Public static final string, that's the one, yep. And this is not a string, this should be an integer, an int, and we'll just go to call this like camera underscore action underscore code. Oops, code. And we'll just initialize that as 1, and we can take this and replace it right here. It's basically the same thing, but usually when you usually some I mean like if you're working with multiple codes, then you would do something like this for so that's easier for you to call these later. But for simplicity, I'm just going to initialize it as 1, but for now we can just proceed with what we did. So I'm just going to call this camera action code, pass it here, and this is initialized as 1. And now if there is an app that supports this action, you may start the activity. Otherwise, we'll show a simple Toast message, and that would be Toast.makeText. The context will be the MainActivity.this. The message would be there is no app that support this action, and the toast would be short. Don't forget the show, otherwise you won't be able to see the toast in your screen. Okay, we are done with the OnClickListener for the button. Okay, next is we need to get the actual value from the camera, and to do that you need to do, okay, let me just remove the space. Okay, outside of the onCreate method, which is this one, we need to override another one called onActivityResult. So we have two types here. We have one that accepts two values, the request code and the intent data, or sorry, request result code and the data, and another one is request code, result code, and the data. We're going to take the one that accepts three values. Let me tell you why we need these three values. So the first one here is the request code. The request code is basically the one that we've just did right here, and that's basically one. So we're requesting to get the value that was captured by the camera, and that's the request code. The result code is we need to make sure whether the result was successful, whether the camera have successfully captured the photo. The data here is basically the value that is retrieved from the camera. So the value could be, if you're capturing a photo, that could be the value of the photo that you'll be able to use it later to manipulate it, to be able to use it in your image view, and that's for the image or even a video. And this is all stored inside this data variable, and this data variable is of a type intent. And why? Because initially here we're working with intent. So we study the intent, and once we have the value of intent, which is the data, that's where we're going to retrieve that, and we're going to use that inside the image view. Let's do it now. Okay, inside the onActivityResult, the first thing that you need to do is you need to check. Check for what? We need to check for the request code. So request code is equals to the one that we've just declared, that which is the camera. We should use it as caps lock. Okay, we have it here, camera action code. If the request code is equal to this code, which is 1, and if the result code is equal to result, it should be result with a capital R dot OK, result, we should have a value called OK. Result code equals results. Is it the results? Let's do OK. Okay, result OK, yes. Should be all caps, all right. So if result code is equal to result OK, and you know what? Let me do it like this, and let me open up the parentheses, and I'll modify this later. So for now, we have the request code is equal to the code, which is the camera action code, and it's 1, and the result code is equal to result OK. So far, everything looks good. Then we'll proceed. Now here, we need to get the basically the intent data, which is here. We need to get the value of that, and to get that, we need to use something called bundle. Bundle equals bundle. Bundle, we call it bundle, and then here we call data dot get extras, because we can only read whatever value inside the data by using the bundle. So first we need to get the value of the data, so we call data dot get extras. Now you can see here, as I hover my mouse over the get extras, Android Studio gives us a warning, says that the method invocation get extras may produce a null pointer exception. Now to avoid this from happening, what we can do here is inside the if condition here, we're supposed to check for 3 things, but instead I did for 2 because I need to show you what will happen if we only do a checking for just 2 values. So to get rid of this warning, what we can do here is if result code is equal to result OK, and if the data is not equal to null. So here we're checking that the result code is capturing camera action code. The request code is camera action code. The result code is OK, and the data is not equal to null. Then you may proceed with getting the data using the bundle. So you can see that when we added this checking for the data that is not equal to null, Android Studio is no longer showing us the warning for the get extras, and that is good. Okay, another thing is now to be able, because once we have the value of the data from the get extras, we need to save that, we need to set that inside the image view. Now we can't do that directly. That doesn't work. We need to do something else to be able to use that inside the image view, and that thing is called bitmap. So bitmap is a type of it's something that we can use that basically holds the bundle data, and that's where we're going to pass the bitmap into the image view. So the image view doesn't read bundle data like that. It reads it through a bitmap. So a bitmap, we do bitmap, we call this, let's call this final photo equals to bundle, because we need to get the data from, because now bundle has the data. So we do bundle dot get. So when we call the get, then we need to pass a string key. So in the Android documentation, and I'll link that in the description below, it says that we need to pass in a key called data. And this, or what this does is, this, when we call data, this data will basically gives us a thumbnail photo format. So when you use your camera in your phone or your physical or your emulator, and you use the data here, then the final result of that image would be set as a thumbnail. So let's say you're building a social media app and you want to modify a profile photo, then you could use something like this. But if, let's say, you want to set the photo as the full image size, then that will be something a bit different than what we're going to than what I'm going to teach you today, because that's where you're going to save the image inside a folder, and that's exactly in those social media apps, those big ones, for example, like WhatsApp. WhatsApp basically stores in the full image size, but where do they store them? They store them inside your phone directory. If you open up your phone directory, you will see that there's a WhatsApp folder, and inside the folder it has images of all that you receive from your contacts or the ones you capture through your camera, and that's basically saving the full image size. But in this tutorial, we're not going to do that. We're only working with a thumbnail. Probably in the future I'll try to cover another section of whereby I'll show you how you can take a full image size and save it inside a folder. But for now, we're currently using the thumbnail kind of image format. So now it's being clear for you guys why we're using the data. You can see that Android Studio here is giving us a warning or an error, sorry. So if you hover your mouse over the line, it says that the required is a bitmap, but what it found was object. Now here, because what we're declaring is a bitmap, but what we are setting the value for the final photo is bundle, and that is this. So but a bitmap bundle, that doesn't work. You need to cast this to bitmap to be able to save that inside the final photo. And to do that, it's pretty simple. Just hover your mouse over this line, and now you can see this red bulb on the left. You see this arrow, just click on that, choose the first option that says cast to the Android graphics bitmap, and here you go. Now the arrow is gone, and the final photo is casted as a bitmap, because the final output that we want is a bitmap, so that we can save that inside the image view. Final step would be setting that in the image view. The image view that we've declared here is called image profile. Let me just copy that, and we call image profile.set image bitmap, and that's what we have here is the bitmap, pass the bitmap, which is the final photo. Okay, now we've set the bundle, we've gotten the data from the intent, we've passed it inside the bundle, we've called the bitmap, we've called the bitmap so that we can get the data of that intent, and we've set that inside the image bitmap as a bitmap. Okay, I think we've done basically what we have, and we should give this a run. Let's see how it looks like in the emulator. So click on the run, and let's wait for this to build. Alright, so build is complete. You can see that the button is pushed towards the bottom, or maybe in the center of the screen. Why? Because we've increased the image size by setting the width and height as 250 by 250. Okay, now tap on the take photo. This should open up the camera, and tap on the camera icon. Tap on it for the second time, and you got these two options. So this one, the center, will basically set the image inside the image view, and here you can see it successfully did that. If you take another photo, and you can play with the other controllers as well. So I tap on the camera icon, I tap on it again for the second time, and then this basically reverts back to the camera again to take another photo. This icon here, or this icon basically cancel the photo completely. So tap on this check mark again, and the photo is here again. Alright, so this is basically it for this tutorial. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Thank you so much for watching, and happy coding.